adjust. Masks have been commonplace for more than a year now, and public trust no doubt will be a factor. Britt Conway has some of the new questions being raised.
5 months ago today, the first person outside of a clinical trial got the first dose of a COVID-19 vaccination. Now, more than 118 million people in the U.S. are fully vaccinated. Millions who can take off their masks. Mostly. The CDC says the updated mask guidance is aimed at individuals, pointing to exceptions like federal, state, local, tribal, or territorial laws, rules, and regulations, including local business and workplace guidance. So taking off my mask isn't entirely up to me, right? Some states like Minnesota and Nevada just dropped their mask mandates, but Hawaii is keeping its in place. What about travel? The TSA mask mandate is still in place until September 13th, and masks are recommended for all travel. So what if you're vaccinated, but your kids aren't? Dr. Anthony Fauci has that answer.
The children do when they're out there playing with their friends and, particularly in an indoor situation.
What about shopping? Grocery store chains like Kroger have already said they want people to keep their masks on. Other retailers are considering their options. How about restaurants? Again, it depends on where you go. If it all sounds a little tricky, it is.
Since you can't completely validate that someone's vaccinated.
Still, Fauci says it's progress. I'm Britt Conway reporting.
The reason why mask requirements are easing is simple. More people are getting vaccinated. People as young as 12 can now get the 2-dose Pfizer shot. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel tells us what families need to know about the process.
I'm going to feel safe. I'm going to feel confident.
That and protected. As vaccine eligibility officially opened for everyone 12 years and older, families headed out to vaccine sites to get their children vaccinated. Anthony White with Family Health Centers of San Diego says the process is simple.
You have to come with a parent who has to provide consent, walk up, go through the process. It's usually in and out about 30, 45 minutes.
Parents and guardians are also asked to bring a form of ID for their children that shows their age.
A lot of the parents have already been vaccinated, so they want to make sure that their kids get vaccinated, so the whole house is vaccinated and they can relax a little bit.
14-year-old Savannah Venegas says she's ready to play ball with her teammates.
We've been practicing since last year, but everybody's wearing masks. But you can take it off if you're far away, like in the outfield. That's it.
A freshman on Hoover High's softball varsity team, Venegas says her teammates who are 16 already received the vaccine, which encouraged her to do so as well.
Well, I just thought getting it because most of my team got it, so I also just want to be fully vaccinated just to be safe.
Venegas was accompanied by her mom, who helped her register and sign paperwork. As it got closer to getting a needle in her arm, she was feeling
a little nervous, but all right.
And all right, it went. The team at Family Health Services of San Diego encouraged and provided moral support for each person and child who made the brave decision to get the vaccine. According to White, so far the health center has received a good response from parents looking to get their children vaccinated.
What's going to happen is you're going to have those people, now that this is available to that age group, we're going to have a spike in people wanting to come in, and then we'll probably reach that group that's a little more hesitant.
Only the Pfizer vaccine has been approved for use for children 12 and up. According to the county, all static vaccine sites will have Pfizer vaccines on hand for walk-in appointments. Parents looking to make an appointment can log in to myturn.ca.gov to make an appointment for a site near you.
The county estimates nearly 176,000 San Diegans ages 12 to 15 are now eligible for the Pfizer vaccine. In Barrio Logan, Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
Many places are now offering vaccines without an appointment. To find a nearby location, you can visit our vaccine dashboard at kpbs.org. You can also track the local and statewide progress in reaching our vaccination goals. Just click on the Vaccines link on our homepage. A significant portion of our population is still skeptical about vaccines, arguing they're part of a vast government overreach. That's evident just up the road in Orange County, where elected leaders got an earful when they tried to track who is and isn't vaccinated. Michelle Geely has that.
hundreds of people from across the state rallied outside of the Orange County Supervisor's boardroom in Santa Ana. The message was anti-vaccine and a resounding no to the launch of a digital vaccination record, better known as a vaccine passport.
With vaccine passports, non-vaccinated people will have great difficulty buying essentials for life like food and clothing, never mind living a normal, regular American life.
You need to step up and do the right thing. These vaccine passports are BS.
Do not make Orange County into the People's Republic of China or Nazi Germany.
How can you protect the privacy of your people in Orange County if you make public their health records?
By mid-morning, nearly 800 people had submitted their names to speak. A large contingent drawn to the meeting by a press release came from outside of Orange County and included well-known anti-mask activists and COVID deniers.
Day one, masks are coming off. Let's get rid of the vaccine. Let's take over our schools again.
They brought signs, flags, and loudspeakers. Officials say misinformation about the vaccine passport is being spread by the crowd.
No vax pass! No vax pass!
We're in a digital world, and people trying to argue that somehow this is going to invade their privacy. Get off Facebook, get off Twitter. Stop using technology if that's your concern. We are now just giving an option that's a convenient digital option. If you don't want to do it, don't do it.
But 4 supervisors voted to pause any implementation of a digital record and stick with the white vaccine card.
Vaccinating more people should be our goal. And anything that's going to make people more reluctant to do so hurts the cause for all of us, right? Because we want to build up the herd immunity as soon as possible.
Michelle Geely reporting case numbers may be at some of their lowest levels of the pandemic, but the virus is still a threat and people are still getting sick. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman tells us about a new treatment being offered here in San Diego.
Family Health Centers of San Diego is expanding access to a COVID-19 therapy that reduces the severity of the virus.
The early onset of symptoms is key. So really, as soon as they test positive, we'd like to get them in treated right away.
Pauline Lucatero is director of nursing at Family Health Centers. She says the monoclonal antibody treatment is simple and fast, requiring just one visit to deliver proteins that attack the virus.
It takes about 30 minutes to infuse, and we observe for about an hour just to ensure that there's no allergic reactions that the patients will be experiencing, and if they do, we're prepared for that.
Make your fist warm a couple times. Since December, around 250 people have come in for the treatment between this facility in Chula Vista and another in Hillcrest. 1, 2, 3. But Family Health Centers can do much more, and it's also being offered free for those who don't have insurance.
We've really just designed this to be as accessible to our patients and to others as much as possible. And the key is to get everybody treated. There shouldn't be any reason for any patients to get admitted to hospitals if we have this drug available for them.
That's it. Encanto resident Olga Villanueva says the treatment was easy.
It was good. I didn't feel anything.
She says Family Health Centers reached out to her after recently testing positive.
I feel good, but I took it precisely to prevent a much worse disease.
The treatment is geared for those most at risk and can be used in kids as young as 12.
It went good. The process was easy.
14-year-old Leslie Hernandez tested positive after her mom, dad, and grandmother contracted the virus. Might be a little cold. This is just saline. So far, she's had mild symptoms, including a sore throat and some headaches, but says the treatment has really helped her mom.
She's okay now. She's been way much better since last week.
In addition to Family Health Centers, Palomar Health and San Isidro Health are also offering the treatment. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
It will still be another week or so before the Padres get some of their star players back. Fernando Tatis Jr. and Will Myers tested positive this week during a road trip in Colorado. They're now in quarantine along with 3 other teammates, all because of contact tracing. Management would not say if any of the players were vaccinated. The Padres aren't the only team dealing with COVID cases. Several New York Yankees players and staff also tested positive. The new outdoor home for the San Diego Symphony now has a new name. Actually, more than one new name. The Symphony says the venue will be known as the Rady Shell at Jacobs Park. This week, I talked to some of the big donors who made the project possible. For For the first time today, we got to hear members of the San Diego Symphony playing from the stage of the Rady Shell at Jacobs Park. The sound, the space, the overall setting brought one word to mind for Symphony CEO Martha Gilmer.
Joy. In the midst of the dark times of the past year, every time we would come to this place, we would feel joy.
Joy that is only possible because of San Diego's leading philanthropists stepping up with huge donations. $15 million from Evelyn and Ernest Rady.
It's turned out to be more than I contemplated in my wildest dreams.
$11 million from Joan and Erwin Jacobs.
We did not imagine anything as grand, as wonderful as it has turned out. It's just such a special place now. I'm sure we're going to all get wonderful enjoyment from hearing all types of music and events here.
Millions were also given by the Conrad Prebys Foundation and philanthropist Una Davis. As we reported last month, the Rady Shell is a technological wonder. State-of-the-art lighting and sound will envelop audiences. There will be various food offerings from some of San Diego's best chefs, and more than 60 new restrooms, replacing the former porta potties.
Come on, look around. This is fantastic.
And when it's not being used for performances, the venue will become a public park.
This venue will belong to all of San Diego.
But Martha Gilmer had more on her mind today than this venue. The Symphony took public a fundraising campaign that's been raising cash from big money donors for the last few years. They're nearly 80% of the way toward raising $125 million. Now they're asking for the public to chip in to help with things like their other venue, Symphony Hall.
It's a 90-year-old performance venue, and, you know, you have to replace things.
But for today, the star of the show was this remarkable place and all that it will offer to the people of San Diego. The first concert at the Rady Shell at Jacobs Park will happen sometime this August, an event that will kick off untold years of performances at this gift to San Diego, a one-of-a-kind the world over. Adam Barcadero, Marina Park South. John Carroll, KPBS News. Do check it out. It is remarkable. The Shell, of course, will be a draw for tourists, but a recent report says getting that part of the economy back to normal will take years. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer breaks down what it means for workers who rely on visitors.
Prior to the pandemic, San Diego's tourism industry was the second largest employer in the region and was responsible for about 200,000 jobs. Since COVID-19 arrived in early 2020, some 70,000 local tourism and hospitality workers lost their jobs, according to a Sandag report. That's roughly 37% of all job losses in the region. Among Hispanic workers who lost their jobs, half worked in the tourism sector, according to the report.
I was so busy working and I had a very good income, and then to nothing is just, it was very scary for me.
Orfa Ortiz is a single mother of two and a banquet server who worked for 7 different hospitality companies in San Diego. When the pandemic hit, all of her income streams were cut and she applied for unemployment. Now she says even that income is unreliable.
So it's very stressful. I'm going through a hard time, and it's just kind of like went down on steps. You know, I can from March 7, all the year, losing my jobs, losing my apartment, losing now my unemployment, working little hours here and there, trying to look for a babysitter. It's very overwhelming.
Bridget Browning is the president of Unite Here Local 30, a labor union for hotel and hospitality workers.
Even if business comes back to 2019 levels, I don't believe employment will come back to 2019 levels ever. They're going to cut back on amenities that they feel like the guests don't care very much about, which means there'll be significantly less jobs.
While the COVID-19 vaccine rollout is allowing the economy to gradually reopen, a new tourism authority report for the region predicts tourism will not fully return to 2019 levels until 2024. Ortiz has started some work again and is trying to be optimistic.
I'm really hoping in my heart that next year we go back a little bit more to normal, and I can see myself working again, maybe not the 7 jobs, but working at least 5.
According to the Tourism Authority report, total visitation in the county is expected to grow 74% this year compared to 2020. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Even the oldest standing structure in downtown San Diego is not immune to the pandemic's financial devastation. KPBS reporter Melissa May explains the trouble facing the historic heart of the Gaslamp Quarter.
Since March 2020, the only activity the Gaslamp Museum at the Davis Horton House has seen is from the resident spirits that call this place home. Now in financial distress, the Gaslamp Quarter Historical Foundation has started a GoFundMe page to keep this historical building open.
To lose it will be just heartbreaking for all of us.
Rhiannon Luna, the executive director at the Gaslamp Quarter Historical Foundation, reflects on the past year.
We've had a really rough year, like a lot of people. And so we're raising funds and raising awareness that the museum is in financial difficulties, and we may go away at the end of June unless we are able to raise some extra funds.
Due to the pandemic restrictions, the foundation's normal revenue from tours and lectures disappeared, and their biggest fundraiser of the year was canceled twice.
Shamrock Block Party downtown every year.
That brought a lot of people downtown, not for the history or anything, but it's a big party.
Built in 1850, the Davis Horton House marked the beginning of what is now the Gaslamp District.
This is really the centerpiece of the historic district, because without us, we wouldn't have a historic district.
Along with the history of the house itself, the Gaslamp Museum covers the history of 16.5 blocks of the Gaslamp Historical District. Sandy Wilhoit is the lead tour guide and historian for the Gaslamp Quarter Historical Society. She knows the importance of several buildings on Fifth Avenue, but the Little Yellow Salt Box Museum
is the most important.
The Davis Horton House originally served the military.
It was home for officers, Army of the Pacific. San Diego was originally just like a little blip where they stopped to refuel, but they did have the Army presence here, and they lived in this house, the officers.
The house is named after William Heath Davis, its first resident, as well as Alonzo Horton, known as the father of San Diego. It then became
the first county hospital. And a German immigrant lady named Anna Shepper, single mother, opened this up, and she charged $1 a day per patient.
Eventually, the house was donated to the city to become a museum. After 4 years of renovations, the Davis Horton House opened to the public.
You can come inside and take a look and see, the history of San Diego kind of play out within these rooms. Is really special, and there's not anything else like it in San Diego.
Get up and close and personal with the artifacts. Don't touch them, but you can get right up there and look at them.
If the museum did close,
the building itself would return to the city. The collections would have to be dispersed to other institutions and to their original donors, which would be very sad to lose this collection, especially some of it is historic to the house itself. And for that to leave, you'd never get this museum back again.
The museum staff and volunteers say closure would also mean uncertainty for the house's permanent residents. Charlotte Perry says she knows the house is haunted.
Well, we would hate to lose those ghosts, too. They'd have to move someplace else. And where would they go?
They don't mind if you, listen, photograph. They don't care. They think it's nice to have company. And they would be very lonesome, too.
The Gaslamp Historical District closing the doors to its most historical building would be a significant loss to downtown San Diego. The museum is now open Fridays and Saturdays for self-guided tours. Melissa May, KPBS News.
California is flush with cash, so says Governor Gavin Newsom, who announced a $75 billion budget surplus this week. Much of that thanks to federal pandemic relief. Some of that money could be sent directly to Californians in the form of $600 relief payments.
That tax rebate will impact just shy of 80% of all tax filers will get a direct stimulus check, will get a direct relief payment because of this announcement.
The payments are part of the governor's overall budget proposal, which needs to be approved by lawmakers. Anyone making up to $75,000 per year would be eligible. Undocumented workers might get another round of stimulus payments. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells us how past money has helped immigrant workers in San Diego and why many believe more is needed.
North Park resident Luis had been out of work since being laid off from a restaurant last year at the beginning of the pandemic. He's undocumented, so we're protecting his full name. He was one of the 1,000 undocumented people who got an emergency $500 debit card from the state at the beginning of the pandemic. But since then, he hasn't received any further support from the government, even though he paid taxes in the United States for 6 years. Undocumented people don't qualify for unemployment insurance. It was tough for him to find work, even after businesses began to reopen.
Most of the places were closed, so it wasn't like jobs available, basically.
On Monday, Governor Gavin Newsom announced a new $500 round of stimulus payments for undocumented people, on top of a $600 payment approved by the legislature earlier this year. Luis said if he was to receive the total additional $1,100, he would save it, because he still doesn't have access to unemployment insurance.
This kind of money arrived. I want to be able to save it. Well, we want to be able to save it in case in the future something else happens, like we don't know what's going to happen. So rather to save the money and be prepared for next round if something happens.
This lack of security for undocumented workers won't be solved by these checks, says Lucas Zucker. With the Central Coast Alliance United for a Sustainable Economy, his group has been pushing for larger checks to the state's 2 million undocumented people, while the state runs a huge budget surplus.
A one-time $500 payment, it's important and it's needed, but it's not even enough to make 1 month's rent for folks who are really struggling with job loss and really nowhere to turn.
Luis has gone back to work in recent weeks at a different restaurant from his old one, often working more than 45 hours a week. He's watched as his old co-workers have been supported all year by unemployment insurance.
Nothing, it's like whole year, okay, whatever, but yeah, it made me feel angry, less.
He's hoping that California will use some of its record-breaking surplus to better compensate undocumented workers like himself. Max Nadler, KPBS News.
The pandemic has been tough on long-standing neighborhood restaurants. Some have been forced to close. But in City Heights, many stuck it out through hard work and support from their community. We're checking in with some of them in a series called City Heights Bites. Once again, here's Max Nadler.
Walk around any hard-working neighborhood, and you'll find a place that you can rely on for fast, cheap, and delicious comfort food. For the past 17 years, that role has been filled by Pat Vuong and his wife Kim Dang, who own Min Ki. As an immigrant from Saigon, Vuong started as a dishwasher at a Chinese restaurant in Horton Plaza, working his way up to executive chef, before he decided he wanted to open a restaurant that would meet people at the price point they were at in his own neighborhood of City Heights. So he bought Min Ki, continuing to work with Chinese food and focusing on dishes like handmade wonton noodles, served quickly to a hungry community on the go. His daughter Sandy saw where her father was coming from while growing up in the restaurant.
We didn't grow up with a lot of money, and when he was struggling, he was a single dad for a while, raising 2 little girls. He had 3 jobs, and trying to feed me and my sister was really difficult for him. So he found places like Min Ki where food was affordable. He wanted to bring really good quality homemade food, but still keep it at an affordable price.
Business ground to a halt last spring as the pandemic shut down restaurants. Overnight, the business that had kept longtime residents of City Heights fed had to shut down.
For Min Ki, it was very difficult in the beginning. Not only are my parents older, but their staff is a little bit older, as well as their clientele. So they made it a priority to try to keep everyone safe.
Like other restaurants, they shifted to full takeout, but missed the business from the quick shuffling sit-down experience, which fit the busy schedules of their customers. Lucky for them, wonton soup can easily be reheated, and their customers fell back on the old favorite during these troubled times. With a few loans from the federal government and other small grants, Min Ki is still on its feet as it emerges from the pandemic.
Everyone's been really excited to still see us here and walking through the doors. It's just been very fun to see everyone come back and enjoy a meal with us.
It doesn't stick out and it's not flashy, but restaurants like Min Ki are what keep the community fed. Sandy Tobin has opened her own restaurant in Kearny Mesa, Dumpling Inn, but her family's food and ethic remains rooted in City Heights.
That's what makes City Heights City Heights is these businesses that are not only independently owned by small families and not backed by some big corporation, but that we've been here for so long. We, I think, are what the culture here is.
Max Rivlin-Adler, KPBS News.
That's all for this special edition of KPBS News. I'm John Carroll. For all of us here at KPBS, thank you for joining us.